so, you'd have your run, but as far as the guys who were perpetually on top, they were Turner contracts and not WCW contracts. And there just didn't seem to be a way to crack in there. I'd be hard-pressed to think of somebody who did that organically, who came in at, 75 grand or 150. And 150 was good money.
Yeah.
I mean, when Magnum offered me the starting income of 1,500, he said, this is like a carrot, right? Next year it could be 150. And I looked at him, and I wasn't trying to bring his attention to his own injuries. I said, Magnum, you've seen me wrestle. There might not be a next year. And that seemed really to, that touched him. And he was like, I think you're worth it. I'm going to see what I can do. And Jim Hurd came over, and he a couple weeks later, he says, Magnum says he thinks you're worth it, and so do I. Shook my hand, and there it was. It also helped that I had Joe Pedicino's Global Wrestling.
Yeah.
Which, was funded by the rare Nigerian prince who many of us have heard from. But we didn't know that he didn't have $25 million. We didn't know that. It seemed like a viable other place to go, to the point where I was actually working Global and WCW consecutively. So I remember them talking to me and saying, you just lost to Terry Gordy on Global. I was like, yeah, but it was a good match, right? And Gordy was one of the best guys of his era. Yeah, really underrated, especially as far as being realistic. And wrestling in Dallas, man, he was going to lay that stuff in, and we had a good match. I've never seen it, but I think it was a good match. But I had that kind of wild card in that I thought I had a
backup plan.
But when it came to WWE, I did call. It was just one call, as we were allowed to do. You test the waters, and there was there was no reaction. It was just JJ, who I've come to, understand. It was not JJ. It was Vince. So, I mean, that was me with a pen in my hand writing the book. But that is what I was thinking. Wait a second, I'm Cactus effing Jack, and I'm getting 30 seconds from JJ effing Dillon. And I think I may have actually cursed in the book. It was like being a kid with a new toy. Like, all right, I don't curse much in real life, but in this forum, I'm going to exercise the right to drop those F-bombs. I would get the denial. Then I would watch Monday Night Raw. I would see Mantor and Duke the Dumpster Droese. Avatar, Al Snow.
Oh, yeah.
And I would think, like, don't they know that I know
I'm better than this?
Or don't they know that I know they're lying when they say they're not looking for new talent?
Yeah.
They were always bringing in new talent. And it was just Vince's feeling, that I didn't look like a star, that the adjective he used was seedy. And I think he said to Bruce, there's no Cactus Jack will never step foot inside a WWF ring.
But thankfully, there's somebody else in there who's pushing pretty hard for you.
Jim Ross, yeah. JR was head of talent for a good part of that time. And JR had always been a booster of mine. He thought that I could come in and work with a lot of the talent, bring a little something different to the table. And I'm hearing this through. I'm pretty sure Jim's discussed it on your show, but I'm reading his autobiography at like 3 a.m. I'm probably in my underwear, 3 a.m. And it's always cool to see your name, your own name in a book. I don't think anyone ever stops thinking that's cool, right? And I resist the urge to go right to my part. I'm reading the book, and it's a very good book, and then it gets to my part, and I read the words in bed in my underwear. I read the words, and I'm imagining Vince's voice in my head is like, okay, I'll bring him in, so you know how it feels to have your heart broken by someone you think is so good who turns out to be the shits. And this is, again, my version of reality. I don't know if I actually yelled out loud in the room, but in my head, at least, I was yelling out, I'm a human being. If I had known this, if this had been the parameters upon which I was hired, all right, I'm going to be honest, you're coming in to break Jim Ross's heart. I don't think I would have taken them up on that. I don't even think had I known that Mr. McMahon finally, in the fall of 1995, This is Bruce telling me this in 2000 and probably 12 or 2013, that he finally goes like, all right, I'll bring him in, but I'm covering up his face.